We're gonna have a great adventure tonight, horror fam! The Telltale Heart is an incredible story written by Edgar Allan Poe, animated in a style I've never tried or really seen before. But before we get into the story, I want to remind you guys about our Creepmas cards. They're an excellent way to introduce some Creepmas into your decorations in your home or work, or excellent for giving out this holiday season. Support the channel and have some fun! Now, without further ado, here's the Telltale Heart.
Alright, let's immediately get something straight. I'm not mad. Insanity is not part of this equation, despite what I'm about to say. I was employed by an older gentleman, tasked with the care of both his house and his well-being. He was a kind soul. Our relationship bore the marks of a mutual respect. It transcended the usual bonds of employer and employee. However, amidst this cordial existence, there lurked a singular source of dissonance. An eye. Well, not just an eye. His eye. It was just wrong. It looked like it resembled a vulture's. Pale, filmy. I couldn't stand to see it. I'd intentionally stand on the opposite side of it, to be away from it. Then, I would find myself looking for it anyways. It was this eye, and this eye alone, that led me down the path I eventually took. Not hate or greed, but a profound disturbance brought about by that haunting gaze. Every night, as he slept, I found myself drawn to his room, compelled by a need to do something about that dreadful eye. It wasn't easy. The old man had actually done nothing wrong. But that eye tormented my soul. So I watched him, night after night, biding my time, waiting for the eye to be open, because it was only the eye I despised, not the man himself. I'd been watching the old man for 7 nights. On the 8th night, on that most unholy night, my patience bore fruit. The eye was open, glaring at me in the darkness. That is when I made my move. In that defining moment, the air itself felt thick. Every shadow in the room watched. I stood there, heart pounding in my chest, not with fear, but with the resolve that had brewed over countless nights. The old man's eye, that ghastly beacon of my unrest, was finally open, staring into the nothingness of the dark room. It was as if the universe had aligned for this very purpose. I edged closer, my movements deliberate, betraying no hint of my presence. The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the storm of emotions raging within me. Then, in an instant, I acted. Not with the frenzy of a madman, but with the precision of a surgeon. As the deed was done, the room seemed to close in. It was scary for sure, but not due to any specific act of gore or violence. It was the extinguishing of a life by my hands that was most profound. The tension did not dissipate with the act. Rather, it coiled tighter around me, a serpent of dread. My task now turned to concealment, to erase any trace of what had transpired in the dead of night. I dismembered the body. It just made good sense. Hiding the smaller portions would be far easier than hiding the entire intact body. I also had to make sure every piece was accounted for. It would be easy to misplace some smaller portions. The wood of the floor became my confidant, the silent keeper of my secret. As dawn approached, I stood back, observing my work. The room bore no signs of the night's events. pristine, as if nothing had ever disturbed its peace. But there was no stillness within me. I had experienced some relief. When the old man stopped struggling, something inside me stopped as well. But it wasn't turmoil that stopped. I just no longer felt the same needs as before. But with the deed done, a void opened and was swiftly filled by a torrent of doubt and unease. Looking around, the stillness of the room mocked the chaos in my heart, a stark reminder of the irreversible step I had taken. The first rays of the morning light filtered through the windows, casting a soft glow over the room that had witnessed such darkness. I hadn't considered how fragile it all is, for all of us. My hands are a really small portion of me, but they were able to easily extinguish an entire other life. The old man had hands. It's like my hands were better than his hands. My hands, previously confident and sure of their purpose, now trembled. I wasn't afraid, but I understood what I had become. Who could that be? Officers of the law? A chill ran down my spine, not from fear, but from the realization that the world outside was about to intrude upon my meticulously crafted solitude. With a deep breath, I composed myself, smoothing the front of my shirt as if that could erase the stains of guilt that clung to me. Descending the stairs, each step felt like a march towards a judgment I could no longer evade. I opened the door with a weak smile, a hodgepodge of feigned tiredness and friendliness that I hoped looked genuine. A clever mask. Good morning, officers. How may I assist you today? My voice, to my own ears, sounded too bright, too forced. The officers explained, in polite but firm tones, about a disturbance reported by a concerned neighbor. A scream in the night. Had the old man's final outcry pierced the silence, announcing our struggle to the world? No. It must have been my own voice, a release of tension so primal that it escaped my control. A scream? This must be a mistake. Please, come in. I invited them in, guiding them through the house with the confidence of an innocent man. Each room we entered was a testament to normalcy, a carefully constructed facade that hid the darkness beneath. And here, I gestured grandly as we approached the final door, is where I spend much of my time resting and reading. The old man's room lay beyond, now cleansed of its macabre secret. I led the officers in, their eyes scanning the space, finding nothing amiss. Yet, as they spoke, asking routine questions, their gaze occasionally drifted to the corners of the room, as if expecting to find something amiss. A bizarre fear began to grip me. The floorboards beneath my feet, those silent keepers of my dark deed, seemed almost to whisper the secret they held. My secret. With every question, a simple nod or a carefully worded response was all I offered. A dance of deception played out right in the light of day. My heart raced, like a wild drumbeat threatening to burst out of my chest. The polar opposite of the facade calm I struggled to maintain. The room, so painstakingly cleaned, now felt like a stage for a macabre play, with the officers unwitting actors in a drama they had yet to comprehend. As the officers continued, the air grew thick again. The sunlight, soft and peaceful earlier, was now a glaring spotlight on my every move and word. Was anyone else in the house with you last night? One officer asked, his voice neutral, yet carrying an undercurrent of suspicion. Alone. I was completely alone, I replied, the truth of this statement laced with irony. Alone indeed, with only my thoughts and the still, silent form of the old man for company. As the officers continued their questioning, the room fell into an uneasy silence, disturbed only by the soft ticking of the clock. But something was wrong with the rhythm, an irregularity that pricked at my already frayed nerves. The sound was too deliberate, too rhythmic, like a heartbeat, but it couldn't be mine. My heart was a frantic flutter in my chest. "Do you hear that?" The question slipped from me, almost without a thought. The officers paused, their brows furrowing slightly as they lent an ear to the silence of the room. After a moment, one shook his head, no. But the sound persisted, growing louder, more insistent. It was unmistakably a heartbeat, a slow and steady thudding against the backdrop of silence, with a weight that seemed to press down on my shoulders. How could they not hear it? It was unmistakably a heartbeat, slow and steady, thudding against the backdrop of silence with a weight that seemed to press down on my shoulders. How could they not hear it? I'm sorry, but surely you must hear that. The veneer of calm I had so meticulously crafted was beginning to fracture under the weight of the sound that filled the room. Again, the officers listened, their expression shifting from mild curiosity to a more focused attention. The room held its breath. "The clock?" one of them finally said, their tone carrying a hint of confusion now. Panic clawed at my insides, a wild, twisting thing. The heartbeat was not just a sound. It was an accusation, a relentless drum calling out my guilt. In my mind, there was no doubt left. They could hear it. They must. Perhaps they were feigning ignorance, a tactic to keep me talking. Or maybe it was a cruel game to them. Watching me squirm under the weight of my own conscience, the realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. They knew. They had to. The pretense of their investigation, their calm inquiries. It was all a ruse. A cat playing with the mouse before the final, inevitable pounce. Thank you for your cooperation. We'll be in touch if we have any more questions, the officers finally said. But the heartbeat, my accuser, had grown so loud, each beat a hammer against my ears. I couldn't hear what the officers were saying. Driven to the edge of madness, I could bear it no longer. "It's him, the old man, his heart, can't you hear it? I know you can. Beating, accusing." The words tumbled from me in a rush, a torrent of fear and guilt that I could not contain. "Under the floorboards, that's where he is, that's where I hit him!" I dashed to the cursed spot in the room, my fingers clawing at the wooden floor. The sound of the beating heart, louder now than ever. I could feel the officer slowly moving towards me, but it didn't matter. "There! There!" I shouted, my voice hoarse with desperation as I began to pry the wood apart. Confusion turned to concern on their faces, and they hastened their steps towards me, not to join in my mad excavation, but to pull me away from the gaping maw I had created in the floor. But it was too late. With a final, desperate effort, I tore away the last piece of wood, revealing the ghastly secret I had hidden beneath. The silence that followed was absolute. The heartbeat had ceased, leaving in its wake a void so profound it was as if the entire world had paused in horror. The officers stared, first at the grim trophy of my guilt laid bare before them, and then at me. Their faces a mirror to the madness and despair that had driven me to this moment.
What a story! Make sure you let me know what you think of the animation. I think we're going to be doing more like this. And remember, if you like the channel and Creepmas, buying the Creepmas cards is a no-brainer. Click the link in the comments. I'll send them out as soon as possible so you can enjoy them for the entire season. Also, thank you Patreons for making all of this possible. That's it for tonight, Super Horror Fam. Until next time, stay spooky, stay safe, and most importantly, take good care of yourselves, Horror Fam.